Tonight, to the rescue again. Congress close to a new $400 billion coronavirus aid deal.
USA!
Protests to reopen the country spread.
I'm out here fighting for our First Amendment rights.
The president signals he's on board, even as new polls show most Americans are not.
I think of it largely as a distraction.
Also tonight, testing troubles. The blame game intensifies.
It's not accurate to say there's plenty of testing out there.
Migrants, farmhands, keep us fed, but who's keeping them safe? Plus, a Louisiana hospice opens so coronavirus patients don't have to die alone.
I think the best medicine that we are giving them right now is to bring their son, their daughter, or their grandchild to their bedside.
Sideline skiers and snowboarders unite to get goggles for docs.
I went through my stuff and grabbed a pair and dropped some off.
And later, this war veteran walked to help fight the virus, inspiring a nation.
The sun will shine on you again.
This is the CBS Weekend News.
Good evening. I'm Shon Gables reporting from WGCL CBS 46 in Atlanta. More federal money could soon be on the way to struggling small businesses. At the same time, the debate over when the reopen of the country is getting sharply political. The virus is still killing more than 3,600 Americans in the last 24 hours. The U.S. death toll now tops 41,000. There are more than 746,000 known cases. We have correspondents covering all aspects of this crisis. Meg Oliver in New Jersey starts us off.
Well, the Army has been supporting several hospitals in New York City. They moved into New Jersey for the first time this week to help an overwhelmed staff here at University Hospital. But it's a different scene across the country as protesters push back for more freedom.
Protests demanding coronavirus restrictions end and the country reopen intensified Sunday.
I'm out here fighting for our First Amendment rights.
But a new poll finds most Americans are concerned states will reopen too quickly.
What's your reaction when you see some of these protests?
I am extremely concerned.
Jonathan Green runs the emergency department at University Hospital in Newark. With the help of the Army, they are just starting to feel the flattening of the curve.
We just need to make sure that we stay the course with social distancing. We don't want to see another surge come in that would be overwhelming.
Restrictions in some states are easing. Marinas and boatyards in Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey are opening with strict social distancing measures. Beaches in Florida have reopened. There's hope in New York. Governor Cuomo says the outbreak is slowing, but they still need to reduce the infection rate before restrictions are eased.
But watch that hospitalization rate and that infection rate, because if that starts going up again and you don't immediately correct, or you made such a dramatic movement that the virus infection spreads, you could go right back to where you were in 1 week's time.
As Americans wait, the lines grow longer outside food banks like this one in California.
The need has been massive.
This month, University Hospital has lost 5 staff members to COVID-19. With more than 200 patients with the virus right now, they are hoping they have reached the peak. Sean?
Meg Oliver, thank you. Tonight, the White House and congressional Democrats say they're close to a deal for more money to help struggling small businesses. This as the finger pointing over testing intensifies. Nicole Killian at the White House.
The White House indicated relief could be on the way to small businesses as soon as this week after money for a popular loan program ran out.
The Senate can pass this tomorrow and that the House can take it up on Tuesday. And Wednesday, we'd be back up and running.
The measure negotiated with Democratic leaders would include at least $300 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program, as well as funding for hospitals and testing.
The very things that we Democrats have been fighting for are now going into the bill.
But amid the cooperation,
we're doing about 150,000 tests a day.
A growing divide over the administration's claims of sufficient testing.
The president gets an F, a failure on the testing.
The president fired off a series of tweets calling House Speaker Nancy Pelosi an inherently dumb person. She will be overthrown. He added, just like I was right on ventilators, I am right on testing. Governors must be able to step up and get the job done.
That's just delusional.
To say that the governors have plenty of testing and they should just get to work on testing, somehow we aren't doing our job is just absolutely false.
Some governors say even if the tests are there, they're short on supplies.
The reagents and the swabs are absolutely essential. You can't process all these tests if you can't take the sample and protect it.
The governor of Michigan is among those calling on the federal government to use the Defense Production Act again to make those testing supplies. The vice president says he continues to work with the governors and is holding a call with them Monday to lay out how they can activate more tests in their states. Sean?
Nicole, thanks. As of today, there are now 198 days until the presidential election. Let's check in with CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. And Ed, President Trump and Joe Biden's campaigns, they're now accusing each other of being soft on China and how to respond to the coronavirus outbreak. What is really going on here?
Well, look, both sides understand that the American public blames China to some extent for not doing more to stop the spread of this disease. And so the Trump campaign now is trying to use comments that Biden had made last year that seem to suggest that the rise of China isn't that big a deal. They also point out that his son had done some business work in China. But the Biden campaign turns around and says, look, while the president wasn't responsible for coronavirus itself, he is responsible for the response.
The next big story that we're waiting for is that Joe Biden needs to do is select a running mate. What do you know about that so far?
That's right. CBS News has learned that that process is expected to formally begin this coming week. Remember, Biden himself has said that he's going to pick a woman to be his running mate, and that group of people that he will look into is expected to include governors like Michigan's Gretchen Whitmer, senators like Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, and Kamala Harris, and potentially others like Stacey Abrams, the former state senator from your home state. We'll see.
Well, Ed, Stacey Abrams has not been coy about her wanting this position. All of Georgia watching this closely. Political correspondent Ed O'Keefe, thank you so much. And you can follow Ed's campaign reporting online, on air, and on CBSN. There is breaking news in Canada tonight. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police say more than 10 people have been killed after a gunman went on a shooting rampage. It happened just outside of Halifax, Nova Scotia. One of the dead is a Mountie. Authorities say the gunman is dead. Now, in this pandemic, there's no such thing as working from home for the nation's farm workers doing essential work with little or no protective gear. Their lives and the nation's food supply are at risk. Here's Manuel Bajorquez.
For workers on Florida's farms, getting to the fields usually starts with a bus ride, making social distancing practically impossible.
We're expected to keep going an essential labor while we are absolutely abandoned in terms of resources to protect ourselves. There's no personal protective equipment for farm workers.
Here in Immokalee, the nearest hospital is about an hour away. Geraldo Reyes is with the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, which has been distributing flyers on COVID precautions in Spanish and Creole, and answering questions on a radio talk show. Some growers have set up hand washing stations, but Reyes fears that's not enough.
If you think about it, about the virus as a wildfire, we are dry tinder in a way. If there are no workers, because we get all sick and it's impossible to sustain the work because of that, then there's no food. What are people going to do?
The vast majority of the nation's farm workers lack health insurance or sick paid leave. And though it's estimated undocumented immigrants paid $20 billion in federal taxes in 2018, they aren't eligible for stimulus checks. Because of our needs, we have to go to work, says Gloria Carrera, though she recently made the tough decision to leave the fields and her income for the health of her 2 children. Work or stay safe, a daily dilemma for laborers like her across the country. But Carrera's situation exposes another problem. More than one family living under one roof. She says it's the only way she can afford the rent, but it increases their chances of exposure even if she continues to stay home. Manuel Bajorquez, CBS News, Miami.
Now to Louisiana, one of the nation's virus hotspots. With no cure and limited treatment options, patients are often isolated from loved ones, even in death. But one Louisiana hospital is trying to change that. Maria Villarreal has more from New Orleans.
Arzelia Smith drove from Houston to New Orleans to reunite with her grandfather.
Immediately, I want to get to my grandfather. That's what my first thought was. I need to be with my grandfather.
89-year-old Willie Gordon was a World War II veteran, a family man that helped raise Arzelia. The coronavirus, combined with underlying health issues, left him lying helpless in a hospital bed.
It's heartwarming and also heartbreaking at the same time, but I believe that he is at peace.
This visit was made possible through a pop-up program created by Heart of Hospice. The agency rented out a vacant wing inside this hospital, exclusively treating COVID-19 patients.
You're bringing healthy family members in to a place where there is coronavirus. How do you ensure their health and safety?
So we took that very, very seriously. Our staff members is actually educating them on the proper utilization of the PPE, how to put the PPE on, what is safe, what is not safe. They're fully gowned out.
Hey, Willie. Arkansas nurse Melissa Moody was part of the team treating Arzelia's grandfather.
I think the best medicine that we are giving them right now, better than anything I can give them through their IV, is to bring their son, their daughter, or their grandchild to their bedside.
How you doing? How you doing, G?
Some would find these moments difficult, but for Willie Gordon's family, this was a gift.
We didn't want him to feel alone during this time.
Are you ready to let go?
I am. I am.
Heart of Hospice is fielding phone calls from across the country, providers saying, how can we help? And others saying, how can we do this in our area for our patients? The Papa was planning to be here through June 30th, but they are already in discussions to see if they can extend past that date to make sure they meet the needs here in New Orleans. Sean?
Maria, thank you. Today marks one of the darkest days in our nation's history. 25 years ago, a right-wing extremist bomb destroyed the federal building in Oklahoma City, killing 168 people, 19 of them children. Today, the pandemic forced the annual memorial to happen online. A warning to southern states tonight. More severe weather is on the way. Golf ball-sized hail pelted Texas and Oklahoma, hitting some creatures hard. Tonight, millions are threatened by more tornadoes from Arkansas to the Carolinas and Florida Panhandle. And here in Atlanta, opera singers are delivering emotional pick-me-ups right to your front porch. Joelle Roberson hits the high, hopeful notes of a Rodgers and Hammerstein's favorite. With the opera closed, singers are finding fun ways to bring music right to the audience. Straight ahead on CBS Weekend News, they're the nation's road warriors. Why keeping the supply chain moving is harder than ever. Plus, the grassroots campaign to turn ski goggles into life-saving protection. And the British vet whose backyard laps
inches to go, and there he is. Congratulations.
Have made him a national legend. The demand for critical supplies, groceries, and yes, even toilet paper has kept big rigs rolling across the country during this pandemic, and truckers are risking their own health to get it done. But as Chris Van Cleve reports, life on the road has become harder than ever.
We caught up with Angie and Larry Baum on Interstate 81 near Christiansburg, Virginia.
Angie, what's the biggest difference you notice when you're driving now?
The biggest thing is a lot less cars on the road, a lot more truck drivers.
Eastbound on the I-10, about 30 miles into New Mexico, and there's hardly any traffic.
They're documenting how life has changed during coronavirus on their Married to the Road blog.
What are you doing? This is like our supply. We've got my face mask there and our Purell. We keep it with us at all times so that it's handy.
And this is what he gave us, a big box of gloves.
What's the hardest part of your job now?
Trying to stay safe out here is the biggest thing.
Finding bathrooms, showers, and a place to rest has gotten harder as many small truck stops and some rest stops are closed. About the only restaurants open now are drive-thrus, and big rigs don't fit.
2 or 3 nights that we didn't eat.
Truckers move 71% of all domestic freight and virtually all consumer goods. They are essential workers, especially now.
I had a girl in Arizona last week. She had a sign that said, "I love truckers." It made my day.
A lot more 5-finger waves than 1-finger waves.
White's Travel Center calls itself the largest truck stop on the East Coast. It's staying open and busy. stepping up its sanitation efforts and has an on-site urgent care. But drivers worry.
Do you guys worry about getting sick?
He's me more than him because he's got a compromised immune system. He doesn't get out of the truck unless it's to pump gas.
So it's weighing on you a lot.
A lot. Yeah, my kids are real worried.
Does it make you think about just staying home?
Wish we could. Absolutely.
But for now, their trailers are full, and they'll keep on driving, hoping we all outrun coronavirus soon. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Christiansburg, Virginia.
Still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, how a grassroots eyewear idea by sidelined snow lovers has gone global. The coronavirus outbreak forced skiers and snowboarders off the slopes early this season, and that's when one boarder decided to turn her unused gear into critical equipment. Here's Carter Evans.
When snowboarder Anna Gasser flew down the slopes at the Olympics in Sochi, Russia, there was no way she could have known some of the gear she was wearing would one day help in the battle against COVID-19. The idea came while isolating at home, where we reached her in Austria.
My whole garage is full with old snowboards and old goggles.
It turns out those ski goggles could be put to a great use by doctors.
If your eyes are bare, they're very exposed, and that's a way for the virus to jump immediately into your body and attack you.
Dr. Marcia Glass and her colleagues were running dangerously low on protective equipment when a fellow doctor sent a box to her home.
I opened up and I just see boxes and boxes of goggles.
They were ski goggles from a group called Goggles for Docs that's been taking in donations from sideline skiers and snowboarders around the world.
Did you ever think that you would be outfitting doctors with personal protective equipment?
No, I don't think anyone would have thought that it came that far and so fast.
Signs are now popping up in ski towns everywhere. We found Paige Rauch making a drop-off in Salt Lake City.
Saw this Goggles for Docs, and so I went through my stuff and grabbed a pair and dropped some off.
In just the last few months, Goggles for Docs has delivered more than 30,000 pairs to medical workers in need.
It's like going fishing. You come down and go, whoa, what do we have?
Nathan Rafferty is one of the U.S. organizers, volunteering at a time when ski resorts and towns like Park City are shut down.
We estimate that our industry lost close to $250 million in revenue.
The work they replaced it with? Priceless, says Dr. Glass.
I am so touched. It's really an inspiration for me to think about stopping and doing a totally selfless gift for people you'll never meet again.
In this case, it's the gift of safety with a little bit of style. Carter Evans, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Up next on the CBS Weekend News, the British veteran stepping in a big way to fight the pandemic. Finally tonight, a veteran who's nearly a century old is doing his part to help Britain battle the coronavirus. What he didn't count on was the overwhelming reaction. Here's Charlie D'Agata.
A couple of weeks ago, World War II veteran Captain Tom Moore came up with a new way to serve his country. 100 laps of his garden, 10 a day, in time for his 100th birthday. A way of saying thank you to Britain's National Health Service for his new hip, hoping to raise maybe £1,000, roughly $1,200. A little morale boost in a country hurting for inspiration.
Tomorrow you'll maybe find everything be much better than today, even if today was all right.
Captain Tom had no idea how good his tomorrow was about to become. The donations began pouring in, so he upped the ante. Why not £500,000? Soon, he sprinted past that too. Within days, Captain Tom became a household name, with people getting daily updates on his progress. Because here's what Captain Tom tapped into: a national outpouring of support for Britain's straining health workers. So with each step, Captain Tom was carrying the country along with him, and not just Britain. Soon, people from more than 50 nations, including the United States, pitched in. 1 million became 2 million, 4 million, 8 million. By the morning of his last day, Captain Tom had raised more than $16 million. And along the way, he raised hope.
the sun will shine on you again and the clouds will go away.
Captain Tom is fond of the saying, fortune favors the brave. He could not have been more right.
Inches to go, and there he is.
Charlie D'Agata, CBS News, London.
Age is only a number. That's the CBS Weekend News for this Sunday. Later on CBS, 60 Minutes. I'm Shon Gables reporting from WGCL CBS 46 in Atlanta. From all of us at CBS News in Georgia and around the world, stay safe. Good night.